The University of Pittsburgh, you have in one corner Dylan Mulvaney, mental illness, plays dress up, including like a 6-year-old, getting praised by the media.
I am Eloise. I am 6. I'm a city child. I live at the Plaza Hotel.
In the other, Riley Gaines, world-class collegiate swimmer, loses to a dude in Will Thomas, speaks out. One gets treated like gold. Yeah! The other one's a bigot. Take a guess which one. I'm Jazz Berganza, and this, hypocrisy much? Is what's next. Good Wednesday, everyone. Jazz Berganza, what's next? Your daily. Hope you guys are doing well today. Like in my last 2 videos, it's been a hell of a 24 to 48 hours. But you kind of want to get off this subject, but sadly, we live in the world of politics and you just can't. You know who's been missing in all this? Dylan Mulvaney. Remember little Dylan? Yes. Remember day 1, day 15, day 365. Of course, dude running around, playing dress up, getting surgeries, mutilating himself. And of course, is seen in the media's eyes as wonderful, so brave, so stunning, so mental. Of course, last time we saw him, he was running around on Drew Barrymore's show, getting a proposal from Drew Barrymore, and of course, kissing on air and making an ass out of himself. University of Pittsburgh. He is scheduled, is scheduled, or supposedly scheduled, to receive an award of some sort of stunning and bravery. Then we have Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines, collegiate swimmer, world-class swimmer, who got caught up in a controversy last year in regards to Will Thomas. Oh, I'm sorry, Leah Thomas, as he's called. Dude was ranked 420-something, 430-something in the men's ranking in swimming. Decided, well, that wasn't good enough. I feel like a woman today. So that's what he did. He felt like a woman. He put on pumps, he put on lipstick and a wig, and decided to stroll in the women's locker room. Of course, dropping his pants, and all the women aghast of how disgusted and vomitous they were. Decided to swim against the women. And of course, he won. He won 2 NCAA titles, beating Riley Gaines and all the other real women in that pool. Since then, Riley Gaines has put her career on hold to speak out against this travesty of men interfering in women's sports. Now we come back to Pittsburgh, because Riley Gaines was scheduled to speak there also. But of course, she's a bigot, so there's a problem with that. Let's take a look. This comes out of Outkick. Riley Gaines points out hypocrisy at Pitt after woke protesters block street ahead of her speech. On Monday, former University of Kentucky swimmer and women's sports advocate Riley Gaines had a speaking engagement at the University of Pittsburgh, as is the case for people brave enough to speak the truth when it is the case of basic biological facts. Yeah, science. Remember that? Gaines was met with protesters. Shocking. And the annoying woke kind, as typical of the case. Gaines, a spokeswoman for the Independent Women's Forum, was on campus to speak with Turning Point USA back in a time now known as The Day. The point of higher education was to learn and exchange. Of course, those days are long gone and, I'll add, dead. Now, we get the likes of this crowd, woke imbeciles, who got together to try to stop Gaines' speech. But before we play that, the stupidity of the protesting. Did it say drag liberation? Is that what I heard? Or trans liberation? I don't know. The clownery, the buffoonery. A group of protesters like a poncho-clad crowd, which I guarantee look exactly the way you pictured it ahead before you clicked on the video, doesn't show up for every speaker and gets scheduled by Pitt. Only the ones who challenge their backward world views. Gaines noted the absurdity of a women's rights activist like herself was met with such hostility, especially after the university had recently shelled out $26,000 to host Trans mental Dylan Mulvaney. There's the clown. And before I play that, I'm just going to scan at the bottom. Gaines has woke crowd scared because she's right and they're not. As she noted, Gaines, who is scheduled to appear on Outkick's Hot Mic with Jonathan Hutton and Chad Withrow on March 31st, is doing something right. As you may recall, Gaines competed against trans swimmer and hero, ESPN, of course the ESPN, Will Thomas. Gaines was vocal about the issues of biological men competing in women's sports, seeing as there is virtually no counter-argument to what Gaines is saying. It left these woke buffoons scared. They're terrified because deep down in their reptilian part of their brains, they know that Gaines is right. That's why they're resorting to threats, protests, and trying to cancel events like this. If they knew their beliefs could be backed up by facts instead of shrieking in people's faces, then there's no reason to keep someone like Gaines from speaking. You know, if you are so confident in your facts, why not let Gaines speak? For real, that's the best they got. Just ask Lily, a trans student, quote unquote, who spoke to Pittsburgh's WESA-FM. Quote, it's just really disappointing to see what's happening at Pitt, and it's really painful to see the lack of change even at students ask for that, Lily said. So I wanted to complain about it somewhere out loud. Translation, I'm not getting in my way. Now I must scream. Yes, because of course, again, you have a dude with mental illness. Very mature. That's the same methodology an infant uses. Everyone standing in the street inconveniently, the good folks, Pittsburgh, know that their worldview is fragile. Perish the thought that someone would challenge their foundationless views instead of coddling them. If what Gaines is saying didn't scare the life out of these people, they won't be standing in the middle of the road, especially not on Monday afternoon. They'd be home, not working, studying for their gender studies final. Now, I'm just going to go jump to this real quick. This is coming from Tucker. Let me go right to the video.
We can't think of any trans person who's ever been murdered by a pastor. As far as we know, that has never happened. So it's not an actual threat of violence from Christians that's inspiring some trans people to buy AR-15s. No, it's got to be more fundamental than that. And it is. The trans movement is the mirror image of Christianity, and therefore its natural enemy. In Christianity, the price of admission is admitting that you're not God. Christians openly concede that they have no real power over anything, and for that matter, very little personal virtue. They will tell you to your face that they are sinful and helpless and basically absurd. They're not embarrassed about any of this. They brag about it. That saved a wretch like me goes the most famous Christian hymn ever written in English. The trans movement takes the opposite view. Trans ideology claims dominion over nature itself. We can change the identity we were born with, they will tell you with wild-eyed certainty. Christians can never agree with this statement because these are powers they believe God alone possesses.
Facts.
That unwillingness to agree, that failure to acknowledge a trans person's dominion over nature, incites and enrages some in the trans community.
Facts.
People who believe they're God can't stand to be reminded that they're not. So Christianity and transgender orthodoxy are wholly incompatible theologies. They can never be reconciled.
Absolutely.
They are on a collision course with each other. One side is likely to draw blood before the other side. That's what we concluded last week. Yesterday morning, tragically, our fears were confirmed. A self-identified trans person called Audrey Hale committed mass murder at a Christian school in Nashville. Hale burst into a place called the Convent School and executed 3 9-year-olds.
And this is the actual
as well as 3
body cam
adults.
footage of
Police have released body cam
shooting.
footage from the end of the massacre. We're showing just a small part of it. You can see the rest online if you want. We're not going to show it because it's too awful and sad. But what was almost as sickening to see in a far more subtle and insidious way was the media coverage of yesterday's tragedy. Here's Terry Moran of ABC News, for example, suggesting that Christians were murdered in Tennessee because they infringed on the rights of transgendered people. Watch.
Audrey Hale identified herself as a transgender person. The state of Tennessee earlier this month passed and the governor signed a bill that banned transgender medical care for minors, as well as a law that prohibited adult entertainment, including male and female impersonators, after a series of drag show controversies in that state.
The state of Tennessee bans the sexual mutilation of children. Children get shot to death in a school. It's cause and effect. That's what ABC News is telling you. That's not far from justifying mass murder. But others took the next step. A group called the Trans Resistance Network said that the shooter's death was a complex tragedy that resulted from, quote, anti-trans bias.
Let me go back to my thoughts. First with Riley Gaines. She's right. She's absolutely right in how she feels. Because she's not just basing on her feelings, she's basing on fact. The fact of the matter is that we've seen it time and time and time and time and time again. We've had other sports figures who have stood out. Most recently, Martina Navratilova, who praised World Athletics Council for banning men in women's sports beginning March 31st. Of course, she's been attacked over the last several years because of saying, hey, women are women, men are men, you don't blur the lines. Riley Gaines is the same way. She was going to be a dental student. She was going to go into dentistry, and she put that on hold. She put her career on hold because she felt that this was something bigger than her, that she had to be another voice. And God bless her for it, because she is getting attacked 6 ways a Sunday. But it's disgusting and so hypocritical that you have a University of Pittsburgh who shells out $26,000 to have a dude in a dress run around saying how so stunning and brave he is because he's mental. Then you have a woman who has gone up against a dude, loses, but you need to sit down and shut up. You need to go back in the kitchen, make me a sandwich. She's like, you, dude, I'm speaking out because this is bullshit. And yet, here come all the trans protesters. All the knuckleheads in drag running around in Pittsburgh protesting. Like I said in their article earlier, if they were so confident of their quote-unquote facts, they would allow her to speak. They wouldn't have protested. But then again, these are the same people, them, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Ben Shapiro, and Coulter, Michael Knowles, go on and on and on in regards to conservative who's been protesting. Charlie Kirk most recently at UC Davis. But then again, as always, it's never been about facts. It's always about my feelings. I'm Jasper Gonzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more just like this? Please have a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a thing. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.